Hi, I'm Jerry Sparks, President of AG Financial Insurance Solutions, and once again we have Rich Hammar, renowned attorney and risk management expert. And boy, do we have a subject today, and it is how to deal with sexual offenders in church. And Rich, you know, probably one of the largest or the most frequent question that we get is, how do we handle a sexual offender in the church? And actually, we have that with adults. We have also had, here as of lately, we've had it with children also that are actually may not be registered sex offenders, but there have been issues, and how does the church deal with it? So let's first start with, can you give me the legal risk to a church of letting a registered sex offender attend the church?
Well, that's our primary question today, but maybe before we even answer that, Jerry, let's address the question of how do churches even find out that they've got a registered sex offender? That is a shocking revelation in many cases, and to find that out. And there are a number of ways this can happen. You know, somebody can just inform the pastor, hey, there's a guy attending the church I happen to know is a registered sex offender. It happens that way sometimes, but sometimes it happens because somebody in the church, maybe somebody in the church office, realizes, and we'll talk about this more later, there's a national sex offender website that enables you to determine, without a signed application, without a social security number, for free, instantaneously, whether somebody's on a sex offender registry or not. And so it's easy to go down the church membership roll and find out if, especially for smaller churches, and then you come up with a list of 13 registered sex offenders that attend our church. Whoa, we didn't know this, Jerry. What do we do with this information? So there's a number of ways that church leaders become aware of the fact that a registered sex offender is attending the church. Let me mention some of the risks involved if churches become aware that a registered offender attends their church and they allow that person to continue to attend. There's a number of risks, obviously, under those circumstances. Number one is the risk that this person may molest a child, especially if this person is a sex offender because of some incident involving child molestation. And then there's, of course, the risk of liability to the church itself. If the person is going to be working with minors, that would be a negligent selection claim typically, or just a general negligence claim if the church does nothing to monitor or to oversee, to supervise this person. There's also a risk of punitive damages, which are damages that are to punish you for reckless or gross negligence, reckless behavior. And, you know, for a church to know they have a registered sex offender and they allow the person to be mainstreamed without any supervision, even working with minors, this could be a punitive damage claim. It also could implicate liability for the church board members who failed to implement an appropriate policy, implementing safeguards to make sure that this kind of contact can't happen. Then you have the media publicity, the stigmatization of the church and the community because of media, a feeding frenzy on what happened in your church. And then let me mention another risk, and that's, Jerry, you can maybe speak to this issue. That's the risk of a potentially uninsured claim. And by that I mean this, that all church liability policies, including yours, have various exclusions, one of which is for intentional, criminal, willful misconduct. Goes by various definitions, but the bottom line is criminal or intentional misconduct, generally because of public policy, is not an insurable risk. And the courts have differed over this. When an insurance company says to a church, it gives you a no coverage letter, there's no coverage under the policy for a case of child molestation because that's criminal behavior. Well, that may be criminal behavior for the perpetrator, but what did the church do that's criminal behavior? The church is not being sued for criminal behavior. It's being sued for negligence. Negligence in the selection or perhaps the supervision of this particular individual. So the fact is, there may be the insurance policy of the church may not cover this risk.
You know, so basically what you're saying is once a church finds out that no matter how they find out, whether they did a background check and checked, which included a sexual registry, once they find out that there is a registered sex offender attending their church, that's when the liability really, really starts for them, because now you know of an instance, and what are you doing to protect your congregation?
That's right. And Jerry, that raises an interesting question. Does a church have a duty to screen everybody that attends the church? What are you going to do? Have somebody have a little desk at the entrance of the church with somebody with a laptop with a wireless connection? Well, here's a guy that's never been here before. Would you come over here? What's your name? We need to do a criminal records check. No court has said a church has that obligation, much less Walmart or any other entity, facility, business, charity in your community. No court has said there is a general duty to do criminal background checks on everybody that crosses the threshold of your congregation. The duty arises when you set apart somebody in some official capacity to work with minors, as a teacher, as somebody that's involved in transportation. There are a number of ways somebody can volunteer or perhaps be paid to work with minors in a nursery, a Sunday school teacher, etc. These are the people that you've set apart officially to work with minors, and that's where the legal duty arises. Not with respect, certainly, to somebody that just stumbles onto your shore on Sunday morning. You have no idea who this person is. Only when they emerge as somebody expressing an interest in working with minors in some capacity does that legal duty to investigate arise.
Now, a lot of times people will actually inform, especially if it's a spouse or somebody else, saying, my husband is a registered sex offender, and that's normally how we find out, is somebody at the church actually calls the church office and says, we believe this person is is a registered sex offender. Then how the church handles it after that, really, that's when the liability starts, is when somebody notifies you that is not possibly a worker. Because I can tell you that most of the time, if you're filling out an application, I think I've only had, I attend a very large church, and only once while we were there did I have a registered sex offender actually fill out the volunteer application and go through the background screening. And, it was interesting. I asked him, I said, you knew this was going to show up, so why did you fill this out? And he goes, well, I filled this stuff out before. He goes, but nobody's ever really checked this stuff. I didn't really think you were going to check it. Mm-hmm. Amazing that people would not even think that we're going to check it.